I'm sitting there in the basement of my duplex in East Nashville, and I just think it's all over. You know, I lied for the one last time. I can't stay sober. I'm also mixing prescription drugs at this point that have been prescribed to me. And the strange thing about suicide too, when you get to this low of a point, is I could describe, and even now I struggle with it, but an inability to connect, a numbness, and a real lack of excitement, unless it's a very dangerous or, a situation that's really adrenaline raising. I was genuinely happy about deciding to end my life. This weight was going to be lifted off of me and I wouldn't be anybody's problem anymore. I keep my Glock 19 locked and loaded, ready in my nightstand in case I need to use it. And I have my cleaning kit there, and I was laid everything out, and I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I was going to make it kind of look like I was trying to clean the weapon. And I planned on shooting a round in my femoral artery on my left side. There was a couple of ways that God intervened for me, because as I'm sitting there excited and relieved, there was no doubt about it. I was going to do it, and I was happy to do it.
All right, guys, welcome back to part 2 of this week's episode of Game of Crimes with Murph in the Morning. I know we left you hanging yesterday, didn't we? But like I said yesterday, I didn't want to rush through the parts that we're going through now, because if you recall, if you haven't watched yesterday's episode, go listen to it now, please, because you need to hear that part before you hear this part. But where we left it yesterday in a nutshell is Jeremy here. Jeremy Locke's our guest this week. He's finishing up his military career. He's already met his future wife, Brittany. They're getting involved in some humanitarian projects. They've gone to a couple places in the Bahamas as well as Honduras, where they've helped people that have been victims of hurricanes. And he told us yesterday about his alcoholism issue, the things that he's going through with PTSD. And he'd just been out with a bunch of buddies of his, and that didn't end up well. So as you left it yesterday, Jeremy, you wake up, you still got an alcoholic buzz going, but you're going through a really dark spot. So I'll just let you take it from here, sir.
Yeah. So when I woke up that morning, like any good Green Beret, we always have these contingency plans. And at that point, I didn't know what was left worth living for. And, I've had a suicide plan in place for a while at this point, probably 6 or 7 years.
Oh, geez.
And I just never executed on it. And I have some mental health issues in my family, from bipolar to depression. And I was actually at this point where if I thought if I killed myself, certain members of my family that are very close to me would then kill themselves as well, because I've had very close family that have tried to kill themselves too. So I wanted to kill myself in a way that would potentially look like an accident. So I'm sitting there in the basement of my duplex there in East Nashville, and I just think it's all over. I lied for the one last time. I can't stay sober. I'm also mixing prescription drugs at this point that have been prescribed to me. And the strange thing about suicide too, when you get to this low of a point, is I could describe, and even now I struggle with it, but an inability to connect, a numbness, and a real lack of excitement, unless it's a very dangerous or, a situation that's really adrenaline raising. It's just hard for me to get to certain points. But I was, for the first time I couldn't even remember, I was genuinely happy about deciding to end my life. Like, it was like this weight was going to be lifted off of me, and I wouldn't be anybody's problem anymore. And I didn't have to struggle with all these things. And it was almost a relief that I had. And so my plan was and I started doing it was, I keep my Glock 19 locked and loaded, ready in my nightstand in case I need to use it. And I have my cleaning kit there, and I laid everything out, and I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I had the Glock out there, and I was going to make it kind of look like I was trying to clean the weapon. And I planned on shooting a round in my femoral artery on my left side. And there was a couple of ways that God intervened for me, because as I'm sitting there excited and relieved, there was no doubt about it. I was going to do it, and I was happy to do it. And I hadn't closed my bedroom door all the way, and it left it, which is actually kind of hard to do, especially in the state. I don't even remember getting home, and I didn't close it all the way, but it was partially where it's like kind of latched. And I had a Great Dane. His name was Captain. He was my present to Brittany for Christmas. And he was only 8 weeks old or so. And when I had gotten back, I must have taken him out to go to the bathroom, and I didn't lock his cage, which I always lock his cage too. I'm very security conscious. And as I'm sitting there with that weapon in my hand and my finger on the trigger, kind of gauging what distance do I want to do it at. And I remember feeling for the pulse in my leg to make sure that I hit the artery. The little door creaks open, and this 8-week-old Great Dane puppy comes and sits down and looks up at me. So he's sitting right between my feet, and I have a gun right there to my leg. And well, now I'm thinking, I can't do this with this dog here. This dog's gonna get covered in my blood, and I don't want to traumatize this dog for the rest of his life or whatever. So I take the dog and I put him in the bathroom, and then I start walking back, and what a jerk thing to think, but I'm trying to think of, well, who do I know that I can message in a way that doesn't seem like I'm going to kill myself, but they can come by and check on this dog, because I was more worried about this dog at this point. And somebody comes to mind, and just moments before, I was too afraid to even look at messages from, I didn't read anything from Brittany or anybody else. I just knew it was done, and she's going to be mad at me. So I open up my phone to text this person, and I had the last message I had received from Brittany, and was the message that ultimately saved my life, because while it was a message rooted in love, and I can't believe that she wrote it like that, but to sum it up, it said, Jeremy, I love you, and I always will love you. I have goals that I need to accomplish in my life, and with you lying to me and drinking, I don't know if we can be together, but I know I'm here for you, and I know that you struggle, and I want to help you. So it was just like this kind, positive message that if it was anything else, I would have killed myself. And that act of kindness and love, that was enough for me to snap out of what I was doing. And I put the gun away, and I sat there and I wept, and I hadn't done this in years. As raised Catholic, I got on my knees and put my elbows on the bed and put my head down, and I prayed to God, and I said, please just use me, but help me. There's the tough part. The tough part is there's things that I don't know why I feel a certain way sometimes. And, but I connected to God again there that morning. And it was also that was the morning, December 6th of 2020, that I quit drinking for good. And I've been sober ever since then. And, it took me moments, millimeters away from ending my life for me to get to that point. But with God's grace and my wife's love, I got through it. And what we've been able to do since that point has been beautiful and incredible.
It's been phenomenal. And I said this on last week's episode as well. And my regular listeners know I'm a Christian. I don't make any apologies for it. If you ever wondered about miracles, you just heard one. I mean, here's a guy's ready to pull the trigger on himself, and a dog walks in, and that's enough to make him stop. And then you look at a message. I'm telling you,
Murph, I could have sat at that door for 5 minutes trying to get it to that point where it wouldn't latch or not. and I wouldn't have been able to do it. And somehow I did that. I don't remember even getting home.
Yeah.
So somehow that happened,
and then
I don't think it was me.
How long did it take you to tell Brittany the story about the message that saved your life?
I don't think I told her or anybody for 6 or 7 months afterwards. I was ashamed by it. But when it took me a while to tell her, but, it took me a while to talk about all this stuff, but it helps me though, now that I'm able to get it out.
Yeah. And that's why I so much appreciate you being open and transparent about your life, because hopefully there's somebody listening to this that may benefit from it. Even if it's only to the point that, where could I call for help? Because we're going to tell you where you can call for help before we finish this interview today. Whew. That's that takes a little recovery here. I'm looking at the title, Aerial Recovery, on my notes. I mean, what an impactful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. So
you're very welcome, Murph.
From that point forward, did the demons that were all boxed up inside of you, did they start to dissipate, to calm down, to go back into their compartments, or how did that develop for you?
I think that they were still there. But they were out. Like I had an enemy that I could actually see. And that's what you really need, especially as a war fighter. You need to see what you're up against. And I really knew alcohol is going to kill me. And if I don't get help, I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe somebody else can, but I need help at this point. And that's when I continued. Well, I got a different therapist, but I really, more than anything, Murph, I turned to God again, and I hadn't done that in a long time. And I was one of those, foxhole prayer guys when things for a big mission or things are kind of hairy. Hey, Lord, help me out. I'll do this for you, or whatever. But I really understood that it's a relationship between a son and a father. And he's always, the beautiful thing about him is he's always there.
Yeah.
No matter what, the good and bad and ugly, you can always talk to him. And so I started leaning a little bit more into my faith, and that really helped me out a lot. But what was great about it too is I started telling this story, and we developed the Heal the Heroes program at Aerial Recovery. And I'm affectionately known as Hero Number One. The whole program is basically based on me. But I'm not alone. I'm just one of thousands. Every 84 minutes, a veteran of the U.S. military kills himself, and it's highest in the special operations community. I'm not the only one. I've received many phone calls. I call them "Do you remember" phone calls. I'll pick it up. Hey, Jeremy, do you remember Sergeant so-and-so? Yeah, that means he's dead every time. And usually it's by suicide, more so than by war. And it's an ending of a human being story that does not need to be that way. It needs to be fixed. And it's a problem. And the way that has helped me with my traumas and my ability to fight these suicidal ideations and the suicide attempt is to talk about what my actual feelings are, and to be able to bring these veterans and first responders, because we help both of them. I find they're very similar career fields. We bring them through this year-long program, and it's all based on myself and guys like me being vulnerable and actually coming up and standing up and raising our hands. And my childhood, I'll say it. And I say it now because I believe it was 7th Platoon, one of our heroes in our platoon 7, we aim to do 25 veterans and first responders a quarter. We tried to do 100 into this program a year. Haven't been able to get there yet with funding, but one of them stood up at our retreat at the beginning of the year-long program and said, "Hey guys, I don't know who needs to hear this, but for about 3 years of my life, when I was about 8 to 11 years old, I was raped by a family member. And if anybody wants to talk about it, I'll talk to you about it." And that permission, even for me, 7 platoons in, I got up and I said I was sexually abused by a family member as well over 2 summers. And I thought I'd take that stuff to the grave, but it's these like this release to get that out of you and that get rid of that shame. And it's going to people that you're inspiring them to speak about their traumas too. And then to go, and then you can help guide them to different resources for them to get help. And it's been a very powerful program. And these are the operators that we then use to go out and do aerial recoveries, operational missions, whether that's a man-made disaster like the war in Ukraine, where we helped evacuate over 800 orphans out of the war zone out in the front lines in the East back to safety in the West, and to natural disasters like Hurricane Helene. We were, working out there. We had over 20 heroes of our program rotate in and serve at Hurricane Helene and help people after that. And because they are the most capable people in the world. And I firmly believe that God has created a certain portion of his children on this planet that are there as protectors. They are the ones that I tell this to my veterans all the time, like, you cannot take yourself out of this because you are the answer to somebody's prayer. Yep. You have the skill set. You are not afraid of that danger, but what we're afraid of is ourselves. We are the only ones that will take ourselves out because we're invincible to everybody else, but we are the only ones. So we have to start working on ourselves too. And that starts with us and our families. And then we can go out and continue to do that service to others. But it starts with the service to ourselves.
It's unbelievable. And when you tell the others about the traumas that you went through in your childhood, I would think that's somewhat of a cleansing, that you've gotten it out in the open. And then that gives other people the courage to admit to the things that they've been through. You're talking about the suicides, and I, here in the last several months, started focusing a little bit more on law enforcement. I was a cop for 38 years, so you'd think I'd have done this already, but I didn't. And found out that the leading cause of deaths among law enforcement now is suicide, more than any other. I mean, maybe as much or more than if you combine ambushes, car wrecks, all the other reasons that police are stabbing, shootings, all that. It's nowhere near the level it is with the military, but one is too damn many.
It's too many. Yeah. One is too many.
So you and Brittany now, you've got aerial recovery up and running. And I just want to read one thing that I copied off of your webpage. You believe in the special forces philosophy of force multiplication, which we talked about in yesterday's episode, understanding that the more people you can help walk in their calling, the better we can make this world. Man, talk about a mantra. Did you come up with that, or did Brittany come up with it?
That was probably Brittany.
I don't want to say that. But now, and so when I started looking at your website, and I don't want to be the one talking here, but I've just got to say this: the things that you guys are doing. And so everybody, bear with me here, because I just want to tell you, I want to brag on these people for what they're doing. Now it's a 501c3, so it's a legitimate nonprofit organization. You can donate to it, and you can claim it on your taxes. And look at their website. It's Aerial, AERIAL, recovery, all one word, .org, O-R-G. The website is, as I've got it pulled up here on my other computer here, it's as professional a website as I've ever seen anywhere. But I got into the initiatives here? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so look at their initiatives. The first one is Heal the Heroes. And you know what, rather than me going through all these, let's just go one by one, and you tell us about what is Heal the Heroes? What does that do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I touched on that one, and that's our initiative that's kind of our core initiative and where we get our operators. But we take 25, our aim is for 25 veterans of the military or first responder community that are struggling with alcoholism, dependency on drugs, generally like a lack of purpose, suicidal thoughts, ideations, depression, anxiety. And we put them through a year-long program. It starts with a 5-day retreat in the British Virgin Islands. And that's really about connecting and building the community back up within your platoon to support each other, encourage some vulnerability, some sharing. It's a 5-star resort at the Aerial BVI, which my wife owns. And We have a ranch on there. It's one of our initiatives as well, with Redemption Ranch, where we get to do equine therapy. We have sound bowls. We have amazing food there. It's just a beautiful experience. We have top of the line speakers that come out and speak to our vets. I'll have to get you out there one time, Murph. And that really is the catalyst. And we instill in that, we are heroes, but we have to work on ourselves, and you can't ignore yourself, and you cannot, absolutely not, ignore those that are been around you and are the closest to you and will fight for you, which is your family. You can't ignore them, and because we want them to come and serve on these missions with us, but we are not going to be an escape for somebody. And so as you move from that phase 1, you go into phase 2, which is a 12-week program that I lead. And it's basically backwards planning how to get your goals in life. We start with a eulogy exercise. What do you want people to say at the end of your life? And then let's work backwards and plan like the military and get ourselves to that point. And then we go into 9 months of my wife's mastermind, G-Force, which is amazing. And the cool thing about G-Force too is if you're not a veteran in the military or first responder community, but it's actually it's entrepreneurs combined with our heroes in the program, and they are in one community. So the entrepreneurs can mentor the heroes in building businesses, nonprofits, learning stocks, all sorts of different things. So there's a lot of resources in there. So it's really fun at G-Force, how that's set up. But now we start teaching them business. And I think a lot of people that you get so used to the military is there to kind of, keep you in it, that you don't think that you can really survive in the civilian world, but there's ways to not just survive, but thrive and do what you want to do. And we teach you how to get more of your number one commodity, which is your time, and figure out what your purpose is. Like, that's what we want to connect you to God's purpose in life. A lot of this disease and depression and all that, and you're just not doing what what you were built and created to do. And let's figure out what that is. So that's kind of our Heal the Heroes program, is it's all summed up in the shell there.
It's fantastic. And the thing I like that you mentioned a couple of them there, you're looking on the strengths of physical strength, financial strength, relational, mental, spiritual, and experiential. I had to look that word up. Mm-hmm. I guess Brittany came up with that one too. But, and then what you didn't mention is that you guys have on-call counselors and mentors. So this is not something that just, a couple guys got together and said, we ought to do something. I mean, you guys are doing this professionally with people that are trained, experts that can actually come in and do some fantastic mentoring and counseling. And the fact that you've got people teaching, such as yourself, who have been there and done that just brings so much credibility to the program. So having gone through that first part, and this, you mentioned this is a year-long program, but mm-hmm. then the next step that you guys have, and you've been talking about this a little bit, is your disaster response. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So we do, and that's where it all started really. My trip to Dorian in the Bahamas, and we respond to natural and man-made disasters. So we helped assist during the troop withdrawal in Afghanistan, helping some people get to Tajikistan and setting them up there for 6 months or so. And the war in Ukraine, we were very, very big as that kicked off in 2022. And we were walking across the border from Poland with a rucksack on and connecting and just figuring out what we can do, and we ended up evacuating over 8,000 people in Ukraine. That was a really big one for us. And from there, we've done a lot of stuff in the States too. Hurricanes, Ian, Delta, Laura, really Hurricane Helene was a really big response for us. We've done that one. We've done volcanic eruptions in the Caribbean, earthquakes in Turkey. I'm sending Seth, who was on your podcast earlier. He's actually leaving today to go to the Philippines in response to an earthquake out there. And that's really an opportunity for us to help people, but our heroes to use their skill sets and kind of scratch that itch of there's the stuff you learned. You're the best people to go help people in these situations, and helping them is healing you, and you healing yourself gives you more opportunity to help them. So that's really what we like to do. And the natural disasters too, in these disasters, a lot of people kind of think of them as separately, but to me, they're very interconnected with human trafficking, because human traffickers prey upon the vulnerable. And these disasters create vulnerable populations that are more susceptible to being trafficked. And you see that we have a joint documentary coming out called The Hidden War. And that shows this human trafficking ring. We were able to take down these pedophiles from the Netherlands that were trying to traffic Ukrainian war refugees into Mexico. And we have a whole thing on that. So yeah, we're really, really active in trying to help people in any sort of situation. At the heart of it, I really have created an aerial recovery as a high-risk rescue organization. Let's rescue the rescuers, and then we'll go help people in their worst time of need.
That's a great way to sum it up there, but we've got a long way to go here before we're summing up. And one thing I want to mention too, in that first part, Heal the Heroes, because you mentioned about the families. And when I first met Seth and Jenna was one of the first speakers. This was at a military appreciation weekend that we did here with Core Medical Group up in Beaufort, South Carolina. Let's see, it's 25. I think this would have been in 24, early 24, like in February or March. She was the first speaker up. And what she talked about was she's affiliated with this group called Aerial Recovery, but not that she's working with the veterans. She's working with the family members. And that just struck a nerve with me, because the one thing I always talk about on here is our unsung heroes. You and I, everybody's involved in military and first responders, law enforcement, high-risk jobs. We take those jobs. I mean, honestly, we take it for the excitement. You get to be an adrenaline junkie, and it becomes addictive. Mm-hmm. But we get married, we have children, we have family responsibilities, but we put our job first. We always put the job first, which is, in Murph's opinion, that's not the way it should be. It should be God, family, then the job. But what we do is it's the job, and then the job. Mm-hmm. So I always refer to our families as our unsung heroes. And what she spoke about that day just really resonated with me. And then when I got to do my little speech the next day, I recognized Jenna and thanked her for bringing that to everybody's attention, because we go out and have the fun. We do what we think the good Lord has given us the ability to do. We risk our lives. We go into situations that absolutely most sane people would never go into. But then we expect the wives or our spouses or our moms and dads or whoever, you guys take care of the family. I'll be around when I'm around. Mm-hmm. So just as much as the studs and studettes that out there that protect us all through first responders and military, as much as we owe them the thanks, our unsung heroes are equally as important, if not more so, because they give us the ability, and for lack of a better word, the authorization to go out and do what we do. So I just don't want to gloss over that. God bless you folks that support the heroes that are out there, because you're every bit as much a hero as they are. And that includes your children too, because they want to be around mm-hmm. mom and dad. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's Murph pontificating there a little bit, but
no, that's great. There's so many programs out for the operators, but there's the family just often gets overlooked. It's not fair.
Right. And for our listeners, if that's something that you guys are dealing with, you get a hold of me through our website, gameofcrimespodcast.com. My email address is gameofcrimespodcast@gmail.com. Good Lord, I can't remember my own email address. But I will put you in touch through aerial recovery with Jenna. When Jenna and Seth come through Orlando, they give me a call, and Connie and I go out and have lunch with them or whatever. And just don't think that you have to go it alone either. We're working to help our veterans and our first responders that have seen unconscionable things, but you got issues as well, and help is available. So please, don't call me, call Aerial Recovery. You can go right on their website. It's aerialrecovery.org, and you can send them information right there. Whatever's mm-hmm. easiest for you, we'll help you out. So, and then the next section, and you already start talking about the anti-human trafficking thing, which really, really has become an important thing for me. Not that I'm going to go out and save any lives, because I'm an old fat white guy now that's losing his hair, that's suffering a lot of, I don't know if you call them injuries, but a lot of pains that I think are a result of all the fun that I had when I was a younger guy. But one thing I noticed on your website that just about knocked me over, this statistic: 49.6 million human trafficking victims worldwide today, right this freaking minute.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We live in this protected bubble in the United States. We're so spoiled living here in the United States, and thank God that we are. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in, I've got countries around the world that are my favorites. I'm sure you do too, but this is home. This is, I had the opportunity as I was promoting up through the ranks, the administrator for DEA at that time said, hey, I would like to promote you up and I'd like to send you back to Colombia. You'll be in charge of Colombia and Ecuador and a couple other countries down South America. And that's a big deal. But I had to tell her, I said, when the 3 years I lived in Colombia, as much as I love Colombia, and I do, but what it made for me, or what it did for me, it made me appreciate living in the United States. And if Murph was king for a day or a year or whatever, I would require every American to go live in a third world country for a year and then come back and quit bitching about how bad you have it here, because we've got it so good.
We might have to have a third episode just about that topic alone.
I know. I get off on these tangents. I can't help it.
No, that's, I'm about to get fired up over here. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm pulling your string, aren't I?
Yeah.
But so in the anti-human trafficking, just the things that you have listed on there, it includes sex trafficking, organ harvesting. That was a surprise. Child sacrifice, domestic servitude, bonded and forced labor, forced marriage, child labor, and then the ever popular CSAM, the child sexual abuse material. You know this better than I do, Jeremy, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Our country, we're the leading country in the world for perverts that are out there. And so these guys, you guys have heard me. I've had Natasha Herzig on here twice, who was a human trafficking victim herself here in the United States, never left the country, went into forced sexual labor. She's now out there kicking butt and taking names. We have Tyler Schwab on here, who founded Libertas International based out of Medellin, Colombia, when he was 23 years old, based on things he saw as he was doing his Mormon missionary trip out of the Dominican Republic. He's now in year 11, living under death threats. He's back in the United States now because the criminals in Colombia want to kill him because they are being so successful, saving these girls, saving the victims. What you guys are doing in Area Recovery, the other studs and studettes I've had on here to talk about human trafficking, we've got to make it more. We complain there so much that fentanyl is devastating our country, counterfeit medications. And I hate to go off on a tangent here, but I just can't help myself. Javier and I got to speak on Capitol Hill twice, once in front of the Senate, once in front of the House. And then at the Legislative Exchange Conference, which is all 50 states, legislators from all 50 states. And it was shocking how many of them had no idea that fentanyl was an issue. This was a few years ago, or that counterfeit medications were an issue. And these are the people supposed to be creating laws to protect us. So, we finally have gotten, all these years later, we're finally getting the word out that fentanyl is a deadly issue that, we've got to address. If it involves blowing boats out of the water, I'm not disappointed when I read about those things.
No.
So now I think it's time for us to bring more attention to the human trafficking issues that we have. Because I just told you, over 49 million freaking people, that could be your kids. I got 4 kids. That could be my kids. I got 5 granddaughters. Whew. Okay. So, okay.
Yeah, there's more people enslaved today than there has been in the history of humanity. There's poor people currently enslaved in the entirety, not taking away from it, but the entirety of the transatlantic slave industry. It's a very real problem. Second largest criminal enterprise in the world behind drug trafficking. It's the most, the fastest growing. And I think a lot of that growth is just us learning about it. And one thing I have to get off my chest is the cases that we're seeing a lot more of right now are sextortion. And so you have to be careful with your children. I had the unfortunate phone call with a father who lost his son, who was talking to someone he thought was a young girl on social media, but that young girl ended up being a this is a kind of human trafficking, a human trafficking network out of Nigeria. And once he had sent images and videos of himself in, illicit positions, masturbation, whatever it was, it got sent out there. And they then said, well, hey, since we know you on social media, here's all your friends, here's your school. If you don't give us $10,000, we're going to send all of your videos and pictures out to them. And this is so they're extorting them through sex. And this young man in high school, excellent student, athlete, went into his father's gun safe, who showed him how to get in it if he needs to protect the house, and shot himself in the head. And it's a story that happens many, many times. And as parents, you have to be, you can't, sex is hard to talk about, let alone don't wait till marriage or whatever you're treat a woman right, whatever you're trying to instill, but you have to have these conversations that are awkward and hard, or you can find your children in a very difficult situation. Absolutely. It happens more often than not.
Absolutely. And for our listeners there, I'm asking you not for purposes of promoting the show, but I ask that you share this interview here with Jeremy to everybody in your circle, your family members, your friends. Put the word out. I'm not looking for you to come over and support the show. I want you to hear his message, because this is so important. This is a thing that a few people are addressing, but it's certainly not being addressed the way it should be.
Yeah. And I want to, so this happened in our family too. One of my nieces, she was caught up where even on, I forget how old she was, and maybe 10, 11, 12, somewhere like that. But she was on one of these games on the phone that her parents, they're good parents. They had restricted her to certain ones, but and I hate calling them predators, because they're freaking scavengers. Like they don't even deserve to be called a predator. We're the predators coming to get you. You're nothing. But they will go into these apps or these games that little kids are playing on there, super innocent games, but they have a chat function. And then they'll lure them to go to a different game that has a better chat function that maybe you can delete them, or you can hide it a little bit. They'll teach them how to do it. And so she was lured out by, it wasn't a kid, and got to the point where she was actually going to go meet up with this person who knows who it was, but it was not a child, which she thought it was another child. And that could have been the last we ever heard of my niece. And thank God my brother-in-law happened to go through and wondering what this new app was on her phone, and they found it. But the cautionary tale behind this is not just that. First of all, don't ever think that you've got everything locked down the way that it needs to. These scavengers are very computer and tech savvy, because they have terabytes of images of young children. They're just disgusting human beings. They know how to use this technology. So they're going to be better than you at the technology. You got to get that out of your mind first. But the second suggestion I have is you have to talk about these awkward and difficult conversations, but you have to be on the team with your kids. It has to be, let's find these people so they don't hurt you and your friends at school. Because what my family members went into which is a normal response, you attack who you can attack in the situation, which is this young girl who was tricked, right? Like it's a natural response that we have to ground and punish and all of that, but really do your best to make sure they understand the severity of the situation, but become a team with them, because they may not understand how dangerous of a game that they're playing. But be very careful about how you punish someone like that, because they are being groomed and tricked by people that do this on multiple occasions, and they're very smart about it.
Right. Well, when it comes to raising your children, it's okay to look at their phones. You're the parent. Who bought them the damn thing? Yep. It's okay for you. You need to know
make a contract with them.
There you go. This general parenting thing, that's not working. I don't agree with that at all. It's no. You're just
or states trying to take over your parenting duties too. Don't let that happen to you either.
Yeah.
And this crap that's getting into school systems, to pay attention to the curriculum that's happening with your kids as well. Cause this is all these scavengers are aware of all of this stuff, and they will prey, just like we fight for people after disasters. They prey upon the most vulnerable and the easiest to get to. So pay attention to curriculums and be very much a part of your children's lives.
Absolutely. And teach them. Mm-hmm. My kids, I got 4 kids. One passed away this past February. So we still got 3.
Sorry to hear that.
And they all know that be aware of your surroundings, and they're all adults. But I got to tell you about my oldest son. He was living in Atlanta, and where he had bought a loft was a neighborhood in transition, is what they call it. Well, the first time I was stationed in Atlanta, that neighborhood is where we used to go buy methamphetamine all the time. But it was a really crappy neighborhood. And so I was in town for something and went over to his place, and we walked to dinner because there's a lot of nice restaurants close by. And as we're walking back, I stopped him and I said, "Boy, I haven't seen you turn around once and check out what's behind you." He said, "Dad, I know when you're with me, I don't have to." Because you are.
You'll let me know.
Yeah. So,
that's
and then
a good point.
Our oldest daughter, she went to Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, and she was with a girlfriend, and she, because she's aware of her surroundings, they're in a Walmart or wherever, buying some necessities. And I'm sure it wasn't alcohol, but might have been. But she noticed this man watching them. And when they went to the car, she noticed him getting his car. And then she noticed him following them. And they went to the next place, and he was there. And so she finally went up and confronted him. And I wasn't real happy about that. I'm more inclined with, hey, go find a cop and let them confront him. But she made eye contact with that guy so that when she did confront, and she's 4'11", she's a little bitty thing, feisty as they come. But because she had made eye contact with that man, he left. And that's because she's aware of her surroundings. So I'm just, that's the one thing that we taught our children that has stuck with them. So teach your own children that.
It's important. It's too
really
easy to get lost in the 3-inch world that we have in front of our faces.
Oh, you're nowadays. Not kidding. And I got to admit, I'm fall victim to that myself sometimes.
Me too, especially if I don't have my glasses and I really can't see anything that's going on.
So now here's another area of aerial recovery that surprised me, and you mentioned it a while ago, the animal rescue. Now, where's that come from?
That comes from my wife, first of all. But originally, aerial recovery came out of its predecessor was Aerial Global Community, and after disasters, primarily, it's not just people that are affected by these things. There's a lot of animals that are affected by them too. So we help nearly 100 animals in Ukraine as well. But when we come across a living being that needs help, we're going to help them. So we've done a lot of rescues, and we have an initiative, Redemption Ranch, which is on the island that Brittany donated it to the nonprofit. And we have racehorses there. We have a lot of these horses and animals. We have 4 zebra that were, they belonged to a zoo that got shut down during COVID, and they were going to go to this game farm in Texas to be hunted. So my wife, I remember being in Honduras, that same, what I was talking about yesterday, that same trip. And I was up to about this high of water, dragging this canoe with food in it, and my phone like this, and I get a message, and it's a picture of these zebras, and my wife's like, "Hey, we're getting zebras," and I was like, "Why the hell do we need zebras?" I was like, "What is this all about?" But now we've got the home of the kissing zebras in the Aerial BVI. They know how to kiss you, so you can kiss these zebras. But
wow,
I'll tell you, all jokes aside, even for me, the healing power of equine is unbelievable. And I encourage people that have tried all sorts of other therapies and maybe they're not working for you, try equine therapy. The way that God built these creatures, I don't know the exact science behind it, but I know human beings have an electrical field that you can subconsciously sense. It's like a foot or 18 inches or something. A horses, because of their herd instincts and that to protect each other, theirs is 30 feet. So there's no lion to a horse, even though it's a different species. When you get close to them and you're feeling a certain way, they actually respond to you and the way you're feeling. It's super interesting, hard to describe, but 100% effective. And when I'm feeling down, I'll just go hang out with the horses and they make me feel better. And of course, there's our ranch manager is trained in equine therapy. So there's a whole way to do it, but I'm telling you, really proud of, and want to continue to help as many animals as we possibly can.
That's, and I think I did my little math here. Is over 200 animals you guys have saved, even turtles and dogs and cats.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's incredible. And we're not done yet, ladies and gentlemen. So I almost missed this one. And I actually found it when I was looking at your equine therapy parts of your website, but it's your care project. Mm-hmm. So you can tell it or I can tell it, or you tell it. And then if you miss anything, I'll tell you.
Okay. Yeah. So we have, with that ranch in BVI, there's a group called Lemonade out there that we partner with. And there's in the British Virgin Islands, when I say BVI, there's the special needs community is overlooked there as well. So we've partnered with Lemonade, and that was the very first, I believe, the first actual program for special needs was this Lemonade. Mm-hmm. It founded an amazing woman who founded it. And so we bring over these children that are special needs, and they come to the ranch and we do programs with them. And some of them riding for the first time, pet and learning about these animals. And it's really beautiful, and especially beautiful because the ranch is called Indy's Redemption Ranch, and it's named after our niece who is special needs as well. And she's Brittany tells the story when she was negotiating for her to stay alive, because unfortunately she was a twin and born at, I want to say 24 weeks or something, 24, 28 weeks, very early. Her brother didn't survive, and my wife was negotiating her when she was a little bitty thing. Her dad could put his wedding ring over her arm, was how little she was. Wow. And Brittany told Indy that if you survive and make it through this, I'm going to get you as many ponies as I possibly can. And so we named the ranch after her. So now she's got her own ranch that helps special needs and veterans. So it's pretty beautiful. Jeez.
And one of the things I read a little bit more about it is, you're teaching these children how to handle their emotions, build up their own confidence and just thrive. Mm-hmm. How special.
Yeah. I mean, it's the beasts, like these horses. We have the largest horse in the Caribbean, Moonshot. He's a Clydesdale out there, and the most gentle thing. And I love the horses, whales, like any of these big creatures that are gentle to me are just like, they're wonderful. They could hurt you, no problem, but they just choose to love you. And yeah. I think that helps a lot of these kids out. Yeah.
But you got a couple other more projects under that care project, don't you?
Yeah.
One in Honduras.
Yep. Yeah. So we have a partnership with a group called the Moravita out there. And these are children who, through different circumstances, have contracted the HIV or AIDS virus, and they live in this shelter. And it's difficult in Honduras because once you are diagnosed with HIV or AIDS, it's not, people don't look at it as it is in the US, where, you can live a very long, pretty normal life as long as you take your medications. You can even get your cell count down enough that you can have a child that's born without the virus. Like you can live a very normal life, but they don't look at it that way in Honduras. So these are kids that a lot of them, when they get out and they're done with this shelter that Moravita that we work with, they don't have the means or the money to buy their own medications anymore. And unfortunately, a lot of them succumb to the illness. So we go out there and help them and bring people on mission trips with us, and improve their living conditions and really help out there as much as we possibly can. It's a great project, and I fell in one of the little girls there. Her name's Alexandra, and we're trying to figure out I want to adopt her so bad. She's so cute. She has HIV, she's blind, and she has her right side of her body doesn't work very well. So, but she's the sweetest little girl out there ever.
Yeah.
And she just always asking about me. So hopefully we can.
Do you speak Spanish?
Not yet, Murph, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I need to for sure.
Did I get this right? That those children that have HIV, if they're diagnosed with that, they just get abandoned?
So a lot of the kids in that shelter are just abandoned, either left there or, garbage. Some of them found garbage just on the streets, wandering the streets. They're not very, probably, I don't remember this as just born in the 80s, but I imagine they still think of it like it was when AIDS first started coming out, where, I'll put it this way. The children are so excited when we come visit them because they finally get to be hugged.
Oh,
because people are afraid to hug them.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. You're not going to contract HIV from hugging somebody. So we give them all the hugs we possibly can.
Heartbreaking. But that's not all. You got one more.
We got another one. Yeah. This one's in Ecuador. And we have a monumental moment coming up for Aerial Recovery. Our first, I guess you'd call it a franchise, but version of Aerial Recovery. We have Aerial Recovery Ecuador opening up, which is Brittany and I are board members of it, but it's a Ecuadorian nonprofit modeled after Aerial Recovery, run by General Salinas. And the cool thing about that is our first care project in Ecuador is it's in Canoa. And this is a perfect place for us to be helping, because not only was that city affected by an earthquake in, I believe it was 2016 or 17, but also I mentioned earlier was those pedophiles that we tracked out of the Netherlands. They were creating a sex hotel for pedophiles.
Oh my gosh.
In Canoa, and they were already abusing young children there. And once the difficult part of it was they were giving these kids, $20 that would come visit them. And when they'd go home, they're out of it because they were drugged. But the family saw the $20. So they would let them go. And they were a lot of the community was almost upset when these pedophiles were arrested, because they were bringing food to their children because they didn't have any food. So we now support that community, and we feed, I want to say it's around 300 children, a day we continue to feed. And that's one of those projects that we want to keep going as long as we possibly can. And thank you to those that choose to and have already donated Aerial Recovery, because we can't do all this good. We can't help these veterans out. We can't do any of this stuff if it wasn't for you. And so thank you for continuing to do that, because we're going to do good with anything that's donated to us.
Absolutely. And for our listeners here, you're seeing on the screen where you can go to aerialrecovery.org. It's real simple, but the website will be up there for you. And the number I read was 350 children per day. Just kids, unbelievable.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I'll be out there in a couple of weeks. Murph, you got to come on a trip with us too out there. Maybe avoid Colombia. We're going to Colombia first, but then we're going to go Ecuador afterwards.
I tell you what, yeah. I'd probably just cry the entire time I was gone. But when it comes to kids, man, they just break my heart.
Oh my gosh!
But it wouldn't be the first time people have seen me cry on the podcast, because when we talk about sexual predators of children, it's just devastating and heartbreaking. So, and just to not just throw out stats, but I'm real proud of what you guys are doing. It's over 200 heroes now that you've been able to take through the year-long program there on the island. And then when you look at the humanitarian rescues, and we're just talking about 3 years, ladies and gentlemen, over 8,000 rescues. 8,000. And this is just one group. I mean, how many people comprise Aerial Recovery?
I think our core team, we're only around 15 or so. And that's international too. These are people that, we have a team in Honduras and Mexican director and all of that. But we also have, you mentioned, over 200 heroes. A lot of those, some are more involved than others, but we have a good pool of them.
The folks that get into your program for the 1 year program, do you fund that, or how do they pay for that?
Again, that's the same. We go off of donors. So these are normally private individuals or some companies. And we have some great partnerships with groups like Jockey International and Trackhouse Racing and just a Black Rifle Coffee Company, just to name a few. These are a lot of amazing supporters that help us and get these things going.
Wow. And I saw on your website, there's a section where people can nominate, or I guess you could submit your information if you were interested in participating in that program.
Absolutely. So if you yourself, and I don't want people to feel discouraged, you can nominate yourself. We've had members of our program that are self-nominees, but if you know you are, or you know someone who's a veteran or first responder that's struggling with what I mentioned before, anxiety, depression, lack of purpose, and feels that they could benefit from this program, please go to aerorecovery.org, go to our initiative section, and there's a spot in there for Heal the Heroes to nominate or sponsor. The only difference is a nomination is there's not any, not money behind it. Not a big deal. We don't pick off of that. But if you do have the means to sponsor or partially sponsor a veteran or first responder through the entire year, it's $15,000 for the whole year for the, for per individual there. So we need as many donations as possible, but this thing is life changing. I know of, at least 5 suicide saves that we've had in the program.
Wow.
Already. And I know of a veteran who, he told us the story when he came on island, and he said he had written letters to his family, he'd sent them all out, and he drove into the desert and he pulled a gun out. And this was about 8:45 in the morning. And he had lost one of his really good friends at 9:00 something, and he was going to kill himself at 9:00, whatever it was, 9:03. And he said, God, if you got more for me, I'm going to sit here and I'll wait. But at 9:03, I'm killing myself. And one of our team members contacted him just before 9 a.m. and said he'd been selected for our program.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
He's still alive today. It's just incredible. And there's multiple stories like that.
Wow.
So it helps. It helps. It absolutely helps. That 84 minutes, we gotta change that.
Yeah. Wow. I wanted to ask you about when you went to Ukraine and were able to get those kids out. Did you have to get government approval here and over there, or how does that work?
Not here. So the benefit of the private organization and a nonprofit such as ours is the bureaucracy is far less, right? There is, even in the U.S., first responders are great, but when you get into an area where a lot of those that are out there serving, they're the ones that are affected by whatever is going on already, it makes it inherently harder for them to. They've got to be, you're worried about your house, your family, your friends. You might have lost loved ones, right? So to be able to come in and help stabilize at the beginning is very important for us. So when we go into a country, we don't need approval from the United States to go in there. We just need approval from the country we're going to. Now, a lot of our team members are former HSI and, that sort of thing, myself and the special forces. So does it help us if we coordinate with people we know that are still in the government? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We talked, I was just in meeting in Mexico City with the U.S. Embassy there and consulates out in Hermosillo. And we always talk, let them know that we're around and what our capabilities are. And at the end of the day, if we really get ourselves in trouble, we would need the government to probably come help us out too. We have never put ourselves in that situation, but we are very careful about the movement of children, unaccompanied minors especially. So in Ukraine, the first task that I undertook was getting the permissions to evacuate the orphanages. We had a board member who was in the adoption process, and that was one of the catalysts that brought us to Ukraine, because once he was adopting a young Ukrainian boy, and once the war kicked off, he was worried about his son. He viewed him as his son, him and his wife did, and all the adoptions were shut down. And his son was in an orphanage that was very near to where Russia was pushing from, right out there. I forget which province he was in out there, but so he asked if we could go help. So that's what got us into one of the catalysts that brought us to Ukraine. So we went out there. Another catalyst is we were getting emails from people asking to help, if we could help evacuate orphanages and get kids out. And sometimes when I would return an email to this to ask, well, who are you? What authorities do you have? Where is this? Who's picking them up? Questions that you should ask, right? I would either get no response, and even once I had an undeliverable email address that came back to me. So
Really?
who knows? Because unwittingly, I believe there was people in Ukraine that were getting kids out for traffickers, not knowing it, because you're not doing your due diligence. So these are young human beings' lives. You got to pay attention to them. I wouldn't give you $100 to pass to somebody 10 hands down without knowing where my $100 is, right? Like, why don't we do the same thing with kids? So we got out there, and I linked up in Lviv in the western side, and we connected with the ministry of basically their version of the Ministry of Defense, which had taken over because they were in, their Department of Defense or Ministry of Defense. They were basically had taken the country over. They were in martial law, and then their version of Child Protective Services. And once we had memorandum signed with them, we were then able to travel and get through checkpoints and move children. And the way we did it was we never brought children across the border. We brought them to the designated government safe areas in Western Ukraine. And then they made the decision to move their children outside of the country to different UN nations or whatever. That was a decision that we didn't want to make.
Wow. It's just, God bless you guys for what you're doing. I know I keep saying that, but what you're doing is just, that's the Lord's work. It's, there's no higher calling than risking yourself for your fellow man. And it says that in the Bible.
No.
So, now you'll probably slap me once I see you in person, but, do you have to grow a full beard like you and Seth had to work with Aerial Recover? I mean, look at you guys.
That's what I tell people. You need beard and tattoos.
I'm not doing the tats. And if I grow a beard, it's all going to be gray and white.
There we go. That's fine. That's all. A full beard and some, you can use the temporary tattoos.
I'm going to get one of those sleeves that you pull on and take off.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you also do some public speaking, don't you?
Yes. That's probably, I had a question on this week's Heal the Heroes call. It was on Tuesday, and that's part of the phase 2 of the program. And one of the gentlemen, his name's MD, his brother's in our program, but he helps us with the mentorship portion. And I came in on the call, and he was asking our veterans, like, well, what makes you feel alive? Because we've really tried to focus on this. And everybody kind of went through and said, playing with my kids, or, whatever it is, driving my side by side out real fast, or whatever their thing was. Right. And mine was speaking. I've really come to enjoy it. I love being up in front of audiences. Every time I get to speak my story, and thank you for having me, it lets a little bit of my wound out. And I believe those words, they come through, and God puts them in the ears, and they help people. It'll help somebody on that listens to this. I know it. And but this is more of a difficult story, but I went and spoke at this event in San Diego, and it was to a big mastermind group. And I had a line of people that came up to talk to me afterwards, and I talked about suicide and alcohol and all of that. And he came up to me, and he has a mastermind out of Chicago, a real successful guy. And he asked me to speak, at his event and coming up in about 6 months. And I was like, sure. So I started talking to him. His name's Brian, and he was talking to me a lot, messaging me a ton. I was like, man, this guy super likes me. I wonder what this is all about. But I went and spoke at his event, and he was trying to help our heroes out and all this stuff, and got to know his daughter and her fiance. They recently moved to Nashville. And then that following February, on day after Valentine's Day, his daughter messaged me and says, hey, Jeremy, I just thought you should know my dad died yesterday. And I was like, man, this is one of those Chronos moments I was talking about. And I was like, man, it just felt off. Like, this didn't feel right, So then a couple of days go by, and found out that he'd committed suicide. And then I started thinking to my interactions with him, if he was a veteran, the way he was messaging and talking to me, I would have recognized him as a veteran that's reaching out for help.
Yeah.
But I hadn't even thought of that. This was a guy who seemingly has it all, is in charge. The inner 20 or 30 members pay $100,000 a year to be part of his group, right? So who does a person like that, whose whole livelihood is based on success, who can they talk to when they're in a dark place, right? And so that was one of those aha moments, was I got to get out. And I appreciate, as you said earlier, Murph, like, to share it. Don't share it for the sake of aerial recovery or the sake of the podcast. Share it for the sake of who might hear it and be educated, or something that it might save somebody's life. And that's really, like, these conversations, these are life or death. This isn't, I forget what that TMC or whatever that is, right? Where they're sitting with their big gulps and laughing at celebrities. Like, this is real stuff that we're talking about. So please share that. And that was a big moment for me. So I love getting up on stages. I love talking to people, because I know God, it's not me speaking. When I get up there, it's my story, but God's translating it into somebody's ears the way that they need to hear it.
Excellent. And I'm glad you did bring that up, because, I guess I tend to stereotype people, and I know it's wrong to do that, but I was a cop for so long. That's what I kind of tend to focus on. That's the whole reason I have Game of Crimes, is just to let people hear the true stories about the bravery and the commitment and the sacrifice and the dedication that's required to keep our people safe. And we're not always successful, but and then occasionally I do remember there are other high risk occupations. I mean, can you imagine being an electrical lineman? I've seen some short videos where they actually have these hooks that they wrap around these guys when they throw a switch, so that if they get electrocuted, they can pull them off of it. It just blows your mind. But it doesn't matter.
Dangerous jobs out there.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what your occupation is. My wife is a retired registered nurse. She saw probably as gory of events as you and I have seen, working in the emergency rooms and the trauma centers and so forth. But even if you're working at Starbucks or whatever job it is, there's stress that goes along with all of this. So the fact that you can come in and from I've been there and I've done that, and this is how I survived viewpoint, I can see where this is beneficial to anybody in any occupation, to bring you in as a speaker to talk to their people. Because, as a business owner or the head of a corporation, your people are your strongest assets. You may not say that, or you may not admit to it, or you may just say it frivolously, but it's the truth. And then you look at our children. We have to pay attention to our children, because as corny as this sounds, they are our future. So they deserve our commitment, our leadership, our mentoring, to be safe from the perverts that are out there. Okay.
The best way to change the world is to mentor our children.
There you go.
That's the one way you're going to do it.
Bring them up in the right way. Now you guys have your annual gala coming up here soon, don't you?
Yes, sir. We do on November 8th in Nashville, Tennessee it's at Marathon Music Works, which it's a great time. We, unfortunately, I wanted to just say this because he was such a great human being. One of our original board members, Brett James, he's a Nashville legend in the songwriting community, just a huge heart, beautiful man. He was killed in a single engine plane crash, and along with his wife and her daughter very recently. So we'll be having a tribute to him. We always have singer-songwriters that perform at our events, and these are, just like Brett was, Grammy award-winning, multiple #1 songs, like incredible. So in true Nashville fashion, it's not just a celebration of everybody helps aerial recovery get to what we're doing and showing what we're doing and trying to raise money for more and future impact. It's also a very entertaining event as well too, where you have some phenomenal musicians that are up there too playing for you. And we did secure one of the best keynote speakers in the entire world.
You got an idiot this year for a keynote. I'll tell you that right up front, man. If you haven't figured that out on this interview, you know now.
Yeah, that's right. So if you want to see us both in person, November 8th, Nashville, Tennessee, 6 p.m., Marathon Music Works.
This is, I can't tell you how honored and humbled I am to be invited to do this. I've gotten to speak at the Orlando Police Foundation, their gala a couple years ago, and it's just a true honor to be in there where you can recognize the people that are helping their fellow man. So I can't wait. And folks, you can buy the tickets on there. You can make a donation right there on their website. And you're seeing it up here again because we want to promote that. You can bring some earplugs in, put them in while I'm up there talking, but the rest of it's going to be good.
Yeah, we can guarantee that.
So, Jeremy, we've been going for quite a while now between yesterday and today. And I just want to give you an opportunity before we go here. For anybody that's thinking about joining the military or law enforcement or being a first responder or any position where they're serving their fellow man, are there any words of encouragement or wisdom that you'd like to offer, or just anything that you'd like to leave with us here at the end of the interview?
Well, I would, first of all, for people that are thinking about doing it, is a very rewarding, it's a very difficult career, but it's a very necessary career. We, as a country, won't be anywhere if we don't have a military. We, as a society, won't be safe if we don't have first responders. So, very admirable to even think about joining that career field. But what I want to encourage people to remember is each and every one of you is beautifully and wonderfully made by God, and you are an individual. When you see something that is not right, you speak up. When you are doing something that you don't like, you speak up. And never lose your identity as a human being in the work that you're doing, because you will find yourself in difficult situations. You will be put into temptation. A lot of times you're in the enemy's territory, and it's very dangerous and very difficult. And you have to be rooted and understand yourself, and you have to be rooted to a higher power, in my opinion. So stay true to yourself. Continue to serve, and be able to step forward and raise your hand and tell someone when you need a break and you need to talk to somebody, because it is very stressful, very difficult work. And those statistics about suicide in the military and first responder and police force, they're very real. And they're very real because you are entering an environment where it's still a taboo subject, but you have to protect yourself for the sake of you and your family.
Absolutely, brother. Well, I mean, great words to end this show on. Again, and I know I'm being redundant when I say this, but thank you so much for coming on the show, for being transparent, for being open about your personal demons that you've dealt with. Thanks, good man upstairs, for bringing Brittany into your life. She sounds like a ray of sunshine for you. And please give her a heads up that I will be reaching out to her, because I think she was probably more impressive than you are. And you're damn impressive, let me tell you.
Yeah.
She sounds like a lady who knows how to accomplish a mission.
She's wonderful. And can I leave on one thing? Murph, I wasn't even planning on saying this, but
absolutely,
my wife has been public about it, and I firmly believe in the power of prayer, and understand that you have to have faith. And very recently, in the last, I think it's been 4 weeks now, my wife's been diagnosed with cancer, and it's a difficult cancer. Mm-hmm. So I just ask for any prayers for Brittany Turner and her full restoration and healing.
Absolutely.
That's what I believe with.
Whew. Wow. That's I tell you, she's going on our prayer list immediately.
Thank you.
And I know that we have a lot of believers here that listen to the show regularly. So please add Brittany Turner. Does she still go by Turner?
She still goes by Turner. I got to get that fixed.
I don't know. She's afraid you're going to name her Bear or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a cool name for a kid, though.
Brittany Danger Locke.
There you go. That could be a TV Turner show. Mm-hmm. But seriously, our thoughts and prayers are with her. Gosh, that's my sister went through cancer. I mean, hell, everybody in the world knows somebody that's gone through cancer. Mm-hmm. So pray for all her healing there. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out more about aerial recovery, about Jeremy Locke here, about Brittany, they don't have it. Oh, you do have a YouTube channel, don't you? It's Aerial Recovery. They're on Instagram at
Aerial Recovery Group.
Aerial Recovery Group. Instagram is Aerial Recovery Group. Also Jeremy Locke, Locke, and Brittany is spelled Britnie Turner. They're both on there. On Facebook, Aerial Recovery, and also Jeremy Locke and Brittany Turner. TikTok, Jeremy M. M is in Morgan, I think is your middle.
Martin. So
Martin.
all of my handles are Jeremy M. Locke on all of the different ones.
Okay. I saw you guys on X at Aerial Recovery, as well as both of you. LinkedIn, Aerial Recovery, and both of you are on there. And then again, their website is aerialrecovery.org. You know, I promote a lot of groups on here that their activities are based on donations. Any donation that's helping their fellow man, that where these folks are willing to risk their own lives to protect other people that they don't know, there's no higher calling than that. So there's a saying that to those who have much, much is expected. If you happen to be one of those people, take a look at these folks. Do what you can. You know, he even mentioned that if you want to help a veteran attend their year-long program, you don't have to foot the full bill. Whatever you can afford goes towards helping these veterans out, as well as other first responders. So be generous, give it a look, pray about it, and then you give whatever's on your heart there. Whew.
Thank you, Murph.
My pleasure, man. This has been rather emotional, I think. I'm just, quite honestly, I'm shocked that I don't have tears rolling down my cheeks here, especially after hearing about Brittany's situation here at the end. But these are the kind of stories we need to get out there, because there are heroes in our world that are still giving, even though they've given 20 years in a war zone, seeing atrocities, digging up bodies, seeing things that human beings should never see. So support them wherever you can. And that being said, we're going to call an end to this week's episode. You know, I go over this every week. I try to think of a new way to say this, but I can't, because I just run out of things. I'm not smart enough to come up with new things. But I want to know why the heck you people keep coming back every week. But you know why you do, and that's because you enjoy playing the biggest, the baddest, the most dangerous game of all, and that's our game of crimes. God bless. Get on with your lives. See you next week.